Welcome to the Shields on Hoops podcast. Here with Nick Peckham again for our review of the review/recap of the ninth game of the season for Syracuse. They go to 6-3 after an 81-70 weird game against Cornell. Just kind of a weird kind of vibe game. Syracuse gets off to a decent start. Cornell starts off slow, doesn't shoot well. It's kind of the ebb and flow of the game. It was kind of one of those games where it was like, this was like a 45-minute game or a 50-minute game. Like you kind of felt like Cornell was probably going to be able to even it out a little bit, but good thing they played for just 40. Syracuse, good start, fairly good start for them. After the initial couple of first minutes of the game when Cornell was up by 5-1, Cornell went on a nice little run to end out the first half. I think 13-1 or 13-2 or something like that. Then Syracuse had a really good response coming out of the half and went into attack mode a little bit and kind of imposed their will. Which they went away from at random points in the game. I understand you can't just, put your head down and just bulldoze people all night. But I felt when Syracuse was aggressive that they got a lot more of what they wanted offensively. Syracuse also shot the three ball really well. 13 made threes in this one. It was kind of flipped. Usually Cornell is more of the three-point shooting team on the teams on their schedule. But Syracuse, 13 threes. Tough to beat. A team that doesn't score well. If a team doesn't score well, then they put 13 threes on you. It's tough to beat teams like that, right? So that was definitely nice for Syracuse in this one. I think probably in the end, if you look at numbers, probably the X factor was the fact that Syracuse shot so well from three. I think like it was a 40% in the end. You had two guys.
40.6 to 27. So
yeah, which usually it's almost exactly flipped. I think Syracuse came in shooting 29 and they came in shooting like 36 or 37. So, it just kind of flipped. That's what happens. Like when two teams are somewhat evenly matched up, to an extent, right? Like when you flip the script on them, good things happen for the team, especially if that team that was already favored a little bit plays better than expected. So, Syracuse has Georgetown coming up on Saturday. Georgetown not doing much. We'll talk about them later. But they did get robbed from a top 40 win. All right, so the TCU's top 40 team, Ken Palm. So they're capable. All right, they're capable. They haven't really played a lot of good teams yet. They've lost some games to teams that probably should beat them anyway. But I think people think that maybe Georgetown's going to be a walk in the park. I don't think anything for this group of Syracuse will be a walk in the park, and B, it's a rivalry game, and C, it's the first time we see Cooley versus Autry. So that'll be fun. But we'll talk about that later on in the week. For now, Nick, hit me up with your your initial thoughts. I know you missed the first half, but you came back and watched it, and then you kind of caught the second half live. What were your vibes or just kind of quick initial thoughts about the game?
So I know we talked off air. We talked at halftime a little bit, but it just kind of felt like one of those weird games where just from tip it felt weird. Like you mentioned, Syracuse kind of went down 5-1 early, and it kind of seemed like
pause. Why can Naheem McLeod not win a jump ball? Explain it.
He doesn't jump.
Explain it to me.
He just reaches. He was like, I think he won like the first 5 of the year, and then he's lost the last. What are we? 6-3, 4. So, but yeah. So we didn't win tip, obviously, but like Cornell kind of came out fast with a 5-1 lead. And then Chris Bell hit a 3 to cut it to 5-4, and Syracuse kind of settled down a little bit after that. But yeah, it just felt like one of those really weird games where Syracuse was going to have to claw their way to a W, and that's kind of what happened. I know we talked pregame on our preview pod. I think the Ken Palm prediction was Syracuse by 5. You mentioned. So, like, obviously, Ken Palm thought it was going to be a close game. It ended up being a close game. Syracuse pulled away at the end. They had 2 dunks within the last 12 seconds of the game. So it was
pretty much won by 7.
Yeah, it was pretty much a 7-point game. Yeah. But yeah, it just kind of felt weird. Definitely the whole game. I missed the first half live, but I watched the second half, and then after the game, I went back and rewatched the first half. But yeah, Syracuse kind of went up by 13 at one point. It was 33-20. You kind of felt like Syracuse kind of figured things out offensively and defensively, and they were flowing in the game. And then, I don't know, some substitutions here and there kind of took that flow out of the game.
Every time.
we turned the ball over, and Cornell hit like 3 threes right down the stretch to kind of cut it to 34-31 at half. But then Syracuse hit big shots in the second half. Chris Bell, Justin Taylor, Judah, JJ, they all kind of hit a big shot in the second half to kind of keep the lead. And I don't really think Cornell, the closest they got was 3 or 4. So they never tied the game and they never took the lead in the second half. So Syracuse hit big shots when they needed them. This is how, I hate to say it, but this seems how the season's going to go. Syracuse is going to have to claw their way. They're going to have to shoot like they did tonight from 3 against top teams to even be in games. I don't know. I mean, I pray that at some point they can click offensively for at least a game. It seems like we go through 4.5 minute stretches of not scoring, and it just like when this team doesn't score, this team's not locked in defensively. So like one goes with one. So when you're not scoring and you give up a run on the other end because you're not locked in defensively, that's where bad things happen. You mentioned, I think you tweeted last night about Syracuse is a 4-minute cold stretch away from this being a very good game or a competitive game. But yeah, so like I said, Syracuse hit big shots down the stretch. I will say that the most impressive thing I think I would take away from this game, Judah Mintz went out with I think it was a 12:06 mark in the second half and sat for 8 minutes and 13 seconds. I think Syracuse was up by 10 or 11 when he went out. When he came back in, it was 6. So it wasn't like a drastic change, but I think Syracuse kind of held it over. They did what they had to do without Judah on the floor. They didn't give up the lead. They obviously could have made a couple more shots. They had some good looks. But that's where I think you see the trust that the coaching staff has in Kyle Cuff to be on the floor and at least run the team. He's not anywhere near Judah on Judah's level, but at least he can run the team. He doesn't really make mistakes too much. Obviously, he's a decent 3-point shooter. He had a couple looks that kind of went in and out, but you can tell the trust that they have. Unfortunately for him, he'll probably end up on the SportsCenter top 10 plays on the wrong end if you watch that this morning. But I thought they played good. Malik, I know you tweeted about Malik, but Malik is a winning player, right? Malik doesn't need the ball. Malik doesn't need to score. He does the little things on the floor when he's out there, especially in crunch time. He had a couple nice tip balls, like when their center kind of posted him up. He's very good at like reaching around and tipping the ball out. He had some nice rebounds. He sets good screens. So like Malik does the little things on the floor to win. And the most impressive thing I'll take away as my final thought of the game, as poorly as JJ played in this game, he had a massive mid-range jump shot when Syracuse was up 3 to take it. I think it took the lead to 5, and they kind of pulled away after that.
That was kind of the dagger. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was a big time play. He had some silly turnovers in the first half, especially. Kind of held down the fort when Judah was in foul trouble there, but also forced the issue a little bit. Jumper was not wet. And he just, but that pull up was a big time play. They needed that something serious. Gave him a little buffer, a little bit of space. Again, bump that thing up to 5. That doesn't go in. Who knows what happens? Can't remember what happens the next play. I think Syracuse got to stop, but again, it goes a miss and that changes the whole flow. Like I said earlier, hitting 13 threes is I don't know how often it'll happen this year, where Judah and Chris both hit 5. I thought they both hit some timely ones. Like Judah's were kind of early and mostly early.
He had 2 late. I think one after he came back in after he sat for 8 minutes. I think he hit one of them.
They're kind of bookended. Bell hit a big one in the second half off the bounce.
Bell also had, I know we talk about this a lot. Bell had he got the ball in the corner right in front of Syracuse bench and kind of did a step in mid-range pull up big shot at the time than it was. I think it was also a 3-point game. It was a little bit earlier in the second half, but it was a 3-point game and he kind of hit that. So yeah, I mean, like they hit big shots to kind of keep them from giving up a lead. I should
Yeah,
say.
those two guys were really big scoring wise. I think they probably are the two worst or two most struggling defensive player. I don't know. It's hard to pick who the worst defensive players are. I think Chris and Judah do the silliest things on defense. Like Chris will fall asleep. Judah will have the stupid reach-ins that put us in 5-on-4 situations. So like they both do kind of some silly things that don't make sense to me defensively, but they are the offensive firepower, the only consistent and dependable-ish offensive firepower. I know Bell didn't play well a couple of games ago. Judah had 5 against UVA. It's a little different when it's not Reese Beekman in your shorts. But those two guys make the plays for Syracuse. Like if Syracuse is going to win games on the back of the offense, it's going to have to be those two guys doing it. Because like you said, Malik's just not a scorer unless he's cleaning up. Naheem's not going to be a scorer. Justin just is depending on his 3. JJ hasn't found himself yet. Quadier scores as many points as he turns it over. So it's just like those are the two guys, man. Like and there's no Benny. Benny, who knows? Benny might be in another country by the end of the week. Like you don't have anybody else you can go to. Maybe when Chance Westry comes back and he's good to go.
Well, I will say to piggyback on that.
That's also an unknown though. Like who knows what that's going to be like.
I heard a rumor that he could start practicing within the next 2 to 3 weeks with the team.
So
but again, that's just speculation.
That's just practice. So
and that's practice. And like again, we don't know what kind of surgery he had. We don't know where he had the surgery on. I think they said lower body injury, so that could be anywhere.
What is with the massive secrecy? Like I understand
that's a college thing. You're not allowed. So in college sports, you're not allowed. It's either an upper body injury or a lower body injury. You're not allowed to specifically say what part of the body.
That's insane. Yeah. Well, let's pay these guys millions of dollars, but not specify
what's wrong with them.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Let's let these guys be sponsored by Nike and local businesses and this and that, but God forbid if we want to know if it's an ankle injury. Come on, dude, give me a break. It's ridiculous.
I will say one thing that stuck out to me last night that I forgot to mention. Justin Taylor, 35 minutes, 15 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. I thought he was phenomenal. And in that stretch where Judah was out, Justin seemed to be more aggressive. I would like to see Chris, Justin, and JJ, like guys like that, be more aggressive when JJ or when Judah's on the floor. They were very aggressive when Judah was off the floor. You mentioned Chris hit a couple threes. Justin kind of hit a 3, had a drive to the rim. JJ was aggressive getting downhill. But like when Judah's out there, it seems like these guys shy away from the ball a little bit more. Understandably, obviously. But in order for this team to be good and be in most games, they need the 4 of them to play well.
Yeah, because they're just not good defensive. They're not good enough defensively. If those guys aren't scoring, it's going to be a long night no matter who Syracuse plays. And Syracuse, I mean, if you look at the numbers, they did decently defensively last night, but I don't know how much of that was Syracuse and how much of that was Cornell not being able to throw the ball in the ocean for like massive stretches of the game. Because they missed a lot of open threes. Of open threes. Not tough threes, not in the shot clock threes, they were very smart about how they played. Like they didn't force anything inside. They still got blocked 9 times, but most of those blocks were like on rundowns and things like that. I thought Cornell did a really good job of once they got it inside, not forcing it up. They tried to find shooters. They tried to, because again, Syracuse collapses so much. But I just felt like they missed a bunch of open shots they probably normally make. But that's the game. I don't think this team is just a random thought. I just don't think this team has the guys, at least right now, to beat anybody that's actually any good. Like they're going to beat the Bostons. They're going to beat the.
It's literally like watching last year. They had guys that were good enough to win the games in the ACC they were supposed to win. But then, I mean, you saw, granted, the North Carolina game came down to turnover at the end, or that charge call on Judah. I think RJ Davis stepped in front of him, and it was a kind of iffy call. But, Duke came to the Dome and beat us. I mean, we went on that 4-game stretch where we lost by 20-plus for 4 straight games. And, the icing on the cake was Georgia was it Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
Coming into the Dome and hitting, I think they hit 18 threes and scored 100 points on Syracuse, and they were the worst offensive rated team in the ACC at the time. So,
yeah, well, last year Syracuse would beat this year Syracuse. So, yes. In Vegas, they'd be favored. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Yes, just don't even try. No, they would.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just thinking about it. Like
they would. They're better. And maybe that changes as the year goes on. But yeah, I just don't see right now. I just don't see a lot of growth right now so far. Like it seems like it's the same stuff, and every game seems to bring more questions than answers. Like okay, like, and then I know we're not UConn, but you watch UConn go in and beat the brakes off of Carolina last night. Like UConn just seems like they keep getting better. Like teams like that's a random example. Like they keep getting better. Like, and no, not every team gets better, and some teams get stuck. But like it just seems like we're doing the same things, which is what drives me crazy, personally, right? Just the way I watch the game, like just seeing the same things happen over and over again. It's like, okay, and some of that's why are we doing what we're doing? Some of that is guys not taking feedback and doing what they need to do to get better. So that is kind of, again, I know we're only 9 games. I don't know how long we're going to keep saying the word only, but we're 9 games into the season.
I mean, we're almost done with our non-conference schedule. So it's
so like we're 9 games in the season, and we've seen these guys against bad competition. We've seen these guys against average, and we've seen these guys against good teams. Against bad teams, they're fine. Against average teams, they have to play well. They've played like they needed a miracle against Colgate. They had hit 13 threes last night against Cornell to really have a good chance, and Cornell shot 26%. So those are average teams. The good teams have beat the brakes off of them. So like that's where I'm kind of like, oh yeah, so like it's like they'll beat Boston, they'll beat Louisville, Florida State. They might steal one from like Wake Forest and NC State or Virginia Tech. But like I can't imagine this team beating a UVA or a Duke or a Carolina.
Well, thankfully they only have to play Duke and North Carolina once.
They had Carolina twice.
Oh, it's a home and home. I don't think they play UVA again. I think it's just the
but
one.
They got to go. But they're at Duke, and I think it's home and home with Carolina. So
and I think we're at Miami as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's true. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And again, that's a lot of speculation. We'll see what happens. I still think some of the substitutions are borderline crazy.
Oh no, just Miami's here.
Okay. Crazy. I think the substitutions are wild at times. Again, it still feels random, and like they're just and again, I'm sure the coaching staff sits down and I'm sure they talk about substitution patterns and they have a plan, I'm assuming. But it just is like it's kind of like, oh well, 6 minutes have gone by. Let's make some subs. No, let's not do that. Right. Like Syracuse went on that little run to kind of like just last night. Like so Bell, and this is what's crazy to me. Okay. So Chris Bell has that turnover that leads to the poster. Okay, gets yanked for Quadir, right? Quadir in the first half turns it over like 17 times in 19 possessions, and they just ride with it. And it's just just weird to me. And I know people were like, oh, well, they left Copeland in for defense and this and that. And okay, fine, maybe. But it's just like me personally, and I know you trust your players, and I know like all in the papers this morning is about how Quadir had a great second half and this and that, which okay, I guess kind of.
I don't think he had a great second half.
I guess kind of. It's like we just want Quadir to be so good. Like we're just like desperate for him to be like MCW.
I feel like
you know what I mean? Like and I think he's talented. I think he's going to be a good player, but he's not him right now. He's not that dude right now. And it's like I think I said this earlier yesterday. It's like, yeah, we got to get him minutes and get him experience, but you still can't mess around. Like you still got to like. If the dude is turning the ball over and it's pick 6 layup time, like the dude's got to sit. I know he rebounds and does all these other things, but I don't know. I think he's to the coaching staff. He's a unique chess piece for this team, but like they're trying to figure out how to like what situations to use him in and how to use him. But like you're at a point now where you just can't throw him into a game just to get him minutes. Yeah, and he's so inconsistent and such a wild card. And it's just like, honestly, it's like Benny kind of was the same way. It's like if you put Benny in the game while he was actually playing, you don't know what you're going to get. Like at least with like Bell and Taylor and Malik and even Naheem, like, you know what you're going to get, right? Like with Benny, you might get All-American type play or who are you type play. Like with Quadir, you might get highlight reel or, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
so you just don't like everybody else. Like, you kind of know what you're getting. Even JJ, even though he hasn't played well, like, you still know what you still know what he's going to do and where he fits and what, you know what I mean? Like with those two guys though, with Quadir and Benny, it's like, who knows? Like, you just don't know yet. And yeah, I think that's their thing. And I'm hoping they figure it out. I don't know. The Benny ship may have sailed. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much. We can talk about that a little bit later. But obviously, Cope's going to be around, and I hope Cope graduates from Syracuse. So, you know, I understand investing in that as well. So I think I get it. It's kind of a balance. It's kind of a coach's decision thing, right? Do we develop right now, or do we really, you know, what do we do? What risks can we take? Because it does feel like a risk when he's in the game. I feel like that's the thing. It's risky when he's in the game. It's like how we get we choosing red or black on this roll, right? Like, you just don't know what is going to happen. And I think he'll win us a game or two this year that we maybe would not have won without him. But there's also that potential that he does some really wild things that end up impacting the game in a negative way. Last thing I'll say is, I think that's all I really had, actually. Yeah, just like you said earlier, weird kind of game. Never got into a flow. I know that's how Cornell plays. But yeah, things never kind of got into a super great rhythm because it felt like neither team really played well at the same time, right? Like Syracuse would have a good little stretch there. Cornell would have a good stretch. There's never a time when the flow was kind of back and forth with a lot of good things happening for both teams, which I think that's what kept the score from being like in the 80s for both teams, because it very potentially could have been if Cornell shot a little bit better. So yeah, those are kind of my overall thoughts. I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not.
No, I mean, like you said, it's kind of like, I feel like as a coaching staff right now, you're in between, do I play my starters 35 to 38, 39 minutes a game and not play a bench, or do I try to get guys minutes when I can? But
and
like,
again, you can't just play the bench for the sake of playing the bench.
yes, there has to be a purpose to playing the bench. And I will say one thing. I know we'll get into it later, but one thing that I think I wouldn't like before the season started are I won't say question marks, but two of the things that are spotlighted so far this season were two things that I probably would have never guessed before the season started, and that's the play of JJ. I mean, obviously JJ's trying to find himself in a new role, a new program around new players and things like that. So I'm not too worried about JJ. And then obviously Benny would be your other question mark. But those are two things before the season started that really had like it wasn't things that you would look at now like we should be worried about, right?
Well, they were two things everybody was excited about. You know what I mean? Like those two guys were the two guys people were like hyped about. Obviously, Judah coming back, everybody was excited about. The three guys that everybody was excited about the most was, okay, well, Benny finally gets to step into a role where he can do his thing. Oh, we picked up JJ. Awesome. Former 4 or 5-star guy, like coming home. Oh, this is the year Quadir really takes off. Like those are three guys that like everybody was really jacked about. If you go back to all the tweets in October and November before the season started, that's what everybody was like excited about.
We talked about it. It was the biggest thing that we mentioned before the season started was as a college basketball player, your biggest thing in college is your freshman and sophomore year jump.
Yeah.
Because when you come in as a freshman and play your first year, it's totally different from what you've seen in high school. So you take what you learned your freshman year and what do you do over the summer before your sophomore year to really take that next leap? And like some of these guys, I won't say have it, but like obviously Chris Bell is more aggressive, right? Than he's not shooting some of these shots at all last year. Justin kind of rolled out as a role player where he's rebounding and moving the ball and being a good defender. So like, I just don't know if everybody's taking that leap yet. It's a big leap, right? Like, you know it, I know it. Anybody who's played at that level knows it. Like, it's a massive leap from your freshman to your sophomore year.
Yeah, I agree, and yeah, that's why I was kind of preaching that all summer that these sophomores would all get better, and they have, and then they have. Like, it's not just that they have more playing time; it's that they've gotten better. Like,
Yeah.
are they better to the point where they are going to, lead us to an NCAA tournament run? No, probably not. But they are definitely better, and they can at least maintain those losses of Joe and Jesse from last year, like, because those are losses. And at this point, loss of Benny as well, right? Like,
So basically, at one point last year, 3 of your 5.
yeah. So those guys had to step into those roles, and so like they've maintained things. Like, this team is still, in my mind, very similar to the talent level, maybe a little less overall talented, just because again those older guys kind of I think would stabilize it. I don't know what this team would do with Jesse if they played each other. Like, I don't know what they would do. Like, they'd be in trouble, right? Anyway,
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think so because Jesse was very inconsistent. So it depends what
who's keeping Jesse off the glass.
Himself.
No, I'm saying if last year's team.
Yeah, himself. Jesse's keeping himself off the glass because Jesse. No. I'm telling you. Look what Naheen did to Jesse last year.
Dude, that was the most fluke. The only reason that he was on the roster
of the season against Jesse.
That was the only reason. First of all, it was against the zone. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. All right, let's talk about Benny real quick. Let's just get off our chest. Like, I'm over it. I hope all is well. I hope everything is fine. I hope mentally everything is good.
So I'm going to throw this out there right now before you go. As we're talking about Benny. So obviously the tweet last night, when they asked Adrian Autry about Benny not playing, his answer was simple: playing guys who he thought would help the team win.
I don't buy that, first off.
So I got a text back from somebody I trust, who's obviously around the Syracuse basketball team. Not going to name names, but what he said is he's been practicing. He looked really good in practice on Monday. Adrian Autry had him playing on the scout team practice squad team a bit to kind of like be that guy and be the leader on a team like that. But nobody's sure outside the coaching staff why he didn't play. Apparently, quote unquote, he keeps doing dumb shit, is what I got a text saying. And he also said, I think coach is probably testing him to see if he's ready to grow up and buy in. And then he said, but I don't know for sure why he didn't play. And then he sent me that tweet and he was like, that's not a good sign though, that Adrian Autry said, I'm playing guys who help the team win. So like, obviously it's a coaching staff decision at the end of the day. You have 4 coaches, or you have 1 head coach and 3 assistants. I'm sure they sit down and talk about it before the game. But like, it's kind of interesting, obviously, especially if he's been in practice and he's been playing well. But you saw his demeanor on the bench last night. It wasn't very good. You never want to have that around a team, especially a young team that's trying to grow together. Having that kind of negative energy around the team is never a good thing.
Yeah, and like I was saying, like, I mean, I hope everything's okay. Like, I don't know what the deal is. I don't like speculating. I really don't. I'm not into. I have opinions and thoughts and takes, but I also try not to say too much about things like this until I know what's going on. And this is what frustrates me about the way they're handling it, is that like
nobody knows.
And I know that we're not entitled, I guess, to that information, but like, you're a premier program in the country. You have people who give a crap. Like, you have people who want to be involved, who want to be a part of it, and like, throw us a bone, like something, like, and just, hey, Benny's got some personal stuff going on. Cool.
That's fine.
Or hey, Benny needs to practice better and he'll play. Cool. Okay. Great.
It feels different, right?
We didn't feel like Benny matched up with Cornell. First off, okay. But like, or just like, we thought that Quadir played well enough to earn his or to stay on the floor. Like, give us something instead of being so like cryptic. And
it's kind of like you missed like Jim Boeheim last year when he would do his pressers on why Chris Bell wasn't playing.
He doesn't rebound.
He doesn't rebound, right? At least you knew, though.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I could disagree with that or agree with that. I could be like, Coach
but
JB's,
you know why he's not on the floor.
Exactly. Like, and that's what is like kind of, and this is just me complaining and whining. Like, it just annoys me. Like, tell us something so we can like know what's going on. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like, same thing with, Chance's injury, same thing with a whole bunch of like just random little things over the course of the year. And it's just kind of been, I don't know. And again, what am I going to do with that information? I don't know. Nothing. But it's just nice. I just want to know what's going on a little bit. As somebody who follows the program, who's invested in it, who wants to see it do well, and likes to talk about it. Like, it's just like we don't have anything to go off of. There's just throw us a bone.
But like it's even like the Hema situation. Like,
yeah.
I thought as a guy who transferred in last year and got limited minutes, I thought he played well enough to be part of the future. Like when there's games where Jesse would pick up 2 fouls quick or have a third and a fourth in the second half, and Hema would come in. And like, granted, he's not Jesse, but he stabilized, right? He blocked shots, he rebounded well. And like that,
if you ask Boeheim right now, why is Munir? If Boeheim was coaching and they were the same rotations, you ask Boeheim, hey, why is Munir? Why is he not playing? He's not good enough right now. That's what he would say, right? Instead, we're like, like, or Boeheim would say, well, Malik's taking all his minutes.
That's fine though. At least we know why.
Cool, good, and that's probably is happening. Or he's still kind of nursing. He's not conditioned right now. He's still trying to figure out. He hurt his knee in practice a couple weeks ago. He hasn't been full strength since. Like, just something. Like, you have enough people who care about things that I feel like, I hate to say the word owe them like some information, but it's almost like, and again, because we're not entitled to anything. It's their program. They're running it how they want to be. But again, you look at Fran Brown coming in here, who's coming here like an open freaking book. Like, I think Fran Brown's going to tell us everything about everybody ever. And like open the doors and it's just going to be just like wide open access probably. And it's just like, and then you got basketball team who is like the flagship program. It's like, we don't know what that's going on. And I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if it's just like Autry leadership style. And here's the last thing I'll say about it. And you can roll with it. It's probably under the guise of we're protecting our players. That's probably going to be the excuse. Well, we just want to protect Benny and make sure blah, blah, blah. But like, are you protecting Benny if the entire community and fan base across the country is like speculating about pictures of him on the bench and the way he's acting? Like, is that protecting him? Just come out and tell us what's going on so people don't have to speculate and improperly judge the kid or come to these conclusions about him. Like, if you're protecting him and his reputation and things like that, then you'll just tell us what's going on. Because now we're just coming up with all these stories. Everybody's just coming up with all these like stories about how much of a bad teammate he is, how he has bad body language, how he's not invested, how he's this and that and this, when we don't really know what else is going on. So like, that's just what people do. That's human nature. That's what humans do. Like, when you don't know what's going on, you come up to conclusions by yourself. I just think they should get ahead of it and be like, Benny's just hasn't been happy with things lately, and we got to have Benny buy in. Or Benny's not buying in. Whatever it is, like, that's okay. Like, let's hear it.
And like, I think you tweeted this morning about it, but like, they wrote an article on Syracuse.com about why Benny didn't play or what was the reasoning behind it. And like, the picture they used was him sitting on the bench yawning, right? Like
nobody else on the bench yawns.
Like, everybody yawns when you sit on the bench, first of all. And second of all, out of all the pictures you could have picked, you picked that one. Exactly. Like, granted, his body language last night was very poor. He was probably the only guy on the bench who didn't get up for anything Syracuse did.
And I don't disagree with those assessments by fans. I'm on board with that, but I don't think you need to blast him in the paper for it.
No. And there was a tweet where like somebody was at the game and like Benny during a timeout was like practicing his shooting form like outside the circle of the timeout. But like, granted, yes, but like, pick a picture of Benny, because like, if you go on Twitter, right, and you go on Syracuse basketball Twitter, their pregame like they show like pictures of the guys pregame. Their pregame picture, Benny was one of the two. I think it was Malik or Quadir and then Benny. So like Benny obviously was out warming up. He had his headphones on. He looked like he was locked in.
I'm wondering if Benny knows he's not going to knew he wasn't going to play. Like, is he just hanging out on the bench clueless and the coaching staff is not communicating that? Or is it like something he's aware of? You know what I mean? Like, apparently I would assume he doesn't know, which again, okay, let me say this. I said I was done, but I have like a couple more things real quick about this. All right. One, why is Benny always wearing different things than everybody else?
You noticed that too?
I went to the UVA watching warm-ups. Everybody's got their stuff on. Benny's got something different on.
Somebody actually tweeted.
He's always wearing something different. Like it's like, and here's my mind. Okay, is that a Benny Williams thing, or is that a coaching staff thing? It's a coaching staff thing. Like, don't let him do it. Like,
so here, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a picture. Yeah. Game night at the Dome, and this is Benny. I'll even pull it up so everybody can see.
But he's always wearing something different.
He's smiling. He looks locked in. He's got but it's not what everybody else is wearing, like you mentioned.
No. And they don't all wear like the same exact things. But like usually it's like they're all wearing orange or white or something like that. And Benny's always wearing something different. Or like they're all wearing like they all have their shorts on, but Benny has his pants on. Like it's always like something different. And I don't know. Maybe that's nothing. But and for me, like why does the coaching staff allow Benny to have the body language that Benny has on the bench?
Or do they not know?
They do. There's like 12 of them.
But I can't imagine you don't know.
They know.
And I can't imagine that like as a teammate on the bench, like they don't bring it up. Like there's dudes that you see during a game talking to him. Like last night, Chance sat right next to him.
Yeah.
And every time somebody hit a three, Chance was up, like holding up 3 fingers or 3 fingers. And like Benny's just sitting there like this, arms crossed. Like, and there's dudes that look at him like as they're standing up and he just sits there.
Yeah. So again, yeah, exactly. And I'm not, again, I don't want to say too much, but I don't like the way it looks. I don't think a lot of Syracuse fans like the way it looks. If he was my teammate, I wouldn't like the way it looks. And I'm not saying he's a bad dude. I'm not saying that. But like optically, which matters, whether you like it or not, optics matter. Like something has to be done about that. And that starts up top. Like this is our culture.
At this point,
this is not how we do things. Like one of my favorite quotes about culture, and I hope I don't butcher this, is like culture is like your culture is the like activity you will the least harmful activity that you will accept, right? Like because again, like you're either allowing it to happen or you are like promoting it, or you know what I mean? Like you get what you tolerate, right? And if it's okay to sit on the bench and not be tuned in and have your arms crossed just because you're not seeing precious playing time, if that's the precedent, like that's not a good precedent. Like it's got to be fixed. Something has to happen about it. Like
and I do think I will say, obviously it's not the first game, but this seems to be the one game where it's become a thing on Twitter, in the news, and things like that. So
and now he's got eyes on him, and now he's got eyes on him.
I do think it will be addressed, maybe not publicly, but definitely behind. It's probably been addressed already, if I can imagine. But like, if you don't, again, I think outside of Saturday being a rivalry game and a big game as it is anyway, I think all eyes are going to be on Benny whether he plays or not.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
And it's sad as it sounds, because now it's at a point where you're kind of putting yourself over the team by the way you're acting.
Yeah, I agree. So I hope that, I hope it gets taken care of. I hope that either, he goes on Twitter today and he's like, oh God, like look at all these people. Like what I don't want him to be like is, oh, well, F all you guys. This is my personality. This is who I am. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's his decision. His decision now is going to be like, do I buy in, and do I like be a quote unquote good teammate,
or do you transfer?
Or do you just be like, screw it, whatever, I'm out. Like I don't know. And again, I'm sure he's thought of these things. You know, Malik's playing well, Justin's playing well. You got Donnie Freeman coming in next year. Like he knows these things are happening. You got Chance Westry on the bench.
But
like
at the end of the day,
like,
all you have to do is play well.
Agreed. Yeah.
Don't worry about what the people in front of you are doing if this is how you're acting at the end of the day.
100%. Yeah. So and again, my whole thing is like, well, if I'm not getting playing time, all right, okay. Who decides whether I play or not? Head coach, right? So I should probably act in a way that encourages that head coach to play me, right? Being I know that sounds crazy, but like being defiant, not playing hard, not fulfilling your role when you get in the game, trying to do too much. Like being so inconsistent, nobody knows if you're going to, like literally every night, nobody knows if you're going to play or not. Like those are not things that
we talk about it. We talk about it pregame on every pod we do.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Benny tonight or not? And like that, it shouldn't be as a player of who we talked about before the season. If you would have looked at the team,
the most consistent.
Yeah.
Should be the most consistent.
Yeah. Yes. And like, obviously you've coached, I've coached, I'm coaching now, but like I've had kids come up to me, Coach, why am I not playing? You look at your body language and then tell me why you're not playing. Come back to me after you look at your body language and tell me why you're not playing.
Yeah.
Or when we're in practice and you miss a high school practice for an AAU game where you're not playing, and then you want to come to me and say why. So like I coach, I'm an assistant coach and a freshman basketball team, right? And we have, so the way freshman works, I don't know if it's the same out in Virginia, but like the way freshman works out here is we have 14 kids on our roster. We have an A and a B team. So 7 on A, 7 on B. So the way it goes is you play 5 quarters, 7-minute quarters. So the first, third, and fifth is A, and then the second and fourth is B. So that way everybody plays. But like I had a kid come up to me, well, why am I on the bench for B? Well, you've missed practice twice a week, every week. And you're going to come up to me and ask me why you're not playing.
For AAU practice?
For an AAU tournament.
And then, and again, you're on the B team on a freshman team in a high school. That means you're not very good. So like your AAU team is not very good. You're not over there playing. You're not on a flight every week.
No.
Off playing an EYBL. Okay. No. Like you're playing on a local rec AAU. Oh my gosh. That's going to get me fired.
So on to another topic. After every game, Brandon tweets, let's hear your thoughts, comments, concerns, suggestions after the game. We're going to add a new segment in where we're going to read some of your guys' comments and questions and things like that. And we'll go over them for you. Obviously, the first one is Benny. We already discussed Benny. Somebody else, Sam, tweeted, not sure we learned anything tonight. It was a good one, though. But obviously, we talked about that. It felt like one of those random games from early on where you just kind of want to claw your way to a W, and that's what Syracuse did at the end of the day.
Yep.
Let's see. Matt tweeted, what are we running on offense? I'll hand this over to Brandon to start.
I mean, well, okay. There's a fine line between simplicity and like doing just and like overloading not want to overload your players, right? Like you don't want to give them too much. You don't want to overcomplicate things, but like simple is so easy to guard at times when you play good teams, right? So, or decent teams. Like, so I remember I was coaching JV a couple of years ago, like probably 10 years ago. We started off really well. We're small school, playing other small schools, just doing basic pass and screen away, like just basic, super simple offense. And we were doing fine, right? So we had a matchup against Radford High School, and they were like disgusting, right? And my buddy, he was teaching at Radford, and he was like, yeah, that's not going to work against them. I'm like, they'll be fine. We'll be fine. No, it did not work, right? It just got blown up because the further you advance in competition levels, like you have to have some other stuff to go to. And they don't have that. They have that, like the one thing they kind of run consistently is that little like double screen away where like there's like that tight curl between the first screen, but it's really just no reason. Like they're not really looking for anything. It's just like to get people moving. I don't think we've scored off of that action. But yeah, it's a lot of I like that the ball is being reversed. I like that there's player movement and cutting, but it just really just kind of seems like they're doing it for the sake of doing it. And there's not like a set, this is what we're going to, and you don't need to like run 100 plays and score off all your set plays to win and be effective offensively. But again, it comes back to my whole thing of things being random. It feels like, and it's like equal opportunity. And that's why people like Quadir do dumb things, because the ball's in their hands too much, right? Instead of being a situation where they're put in a spot that they should be, right? Like he gets it in like a random spot that anybody could get the ball in, and then it turns into something that shouldn't happen. So I'd like to see some more intentionality out of the offense for sure. And it's going to be a necessity thing if they want to beat anybody's any good. Like it has to advance. I don't think it's going to. It's going to be a problem. You saw against UVA. It was just so easy to guard because they're not really doing anything.
The biggest thing, like you mentioned, is like one thing in offense, especially when you move up in levels, is what do you do when you don't have the ball in your hands or you're off the ball? And like you mentioned, like they cut and they screen, but there's nothing to it. It's just like, oh, we have to do this, so let's do it. Mm-hmm. And like when you play good teams, like you see it. Like obviously UVA destroyed us in the second half, but like you see it where when you just give Judah the ball and kind of tell Judah to go to work and nobody's moving, now you're basically playing 1-on-5 if you're Judah. Because all the defenses, they're sagging off and you got 10 eyes on you instead of just 2. So like as the other 4 guys on the floor, you have to move and keep your defender engaged with you. So it opens up driving lanes. It opens up things all over the place. So like they got to move with a purpose, and they got to move with like I'm going to move like I'm getting the ball, even if I know I'm not getting the ball. Like everything should be the same. You shouldn't like slowly come off screens if you're not getting it or things like that. Like they got to be more definitive in what they do.
I mean, watch other teams play. Just watch other teams play. Like that's the thing with me is like just watch other like highly efficient offensive teams play, and watch what they do off the ball, and like kind of compare it. And then again, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Like there's different ways to win, but yeah, I feel those same sentiments at times for sure.
So here's an interesting one. I'm interested to see your response to this one.
Great.
Cole tweeted, this team has managed to put up 80 points multiple times without a clean half-court offense. There's a lot of potential, especially if we clean up silly mistakes and adjust rebounding.
Okay. All right. Okay, 80 points. So let me look here. So 80 points against New Hampshire, 80 points against Canisius, 79 against Colgate, 105 against that school in Hawaii.
You can at least give them. You can at least say their name.
Chaminade. 81 against Cornell, and 80 against LSU. Tennessee, 56 points. Gonzaga, 57 points. Virginia, 62 points. So, like, I guess they are scoring 80 against sub 175 or sub 150 Ken Palm teams, but look at the schedule for the rest of the year. 177, 45, 312, 59, 19, 105, 15, 59, 44, 72, 68, 105, 77, 160. So like 26, 15, 68, 67, 26. So like you're going to play a lot of these. I mean, LSU's up to 95 now in Ken Palm.
Good. So like keep moving up.
Yeah, in the wrong direction, right? Keep moving down, I guess. So like, I mean, they have scored 80, but the reason they score 80 is because they turn teams that aren't as athletic as them over. Or like they get beat and then they block shots that leads to transition. And like,
and like obviously, like he put in there, we clean up the silly mistakes. Obviously, there's turnovers in the game where we can clean up and get more. Like I think we shot. Don't quote me on this. I think we had 68 shot attempts yesterday as a team, and we had 7, 8, 9 really bad turnovers that should have been avoided. So, like, if you can, as a team like Syracuse, if you can get anywhere between 70 and 77 shots a game, you're only going to better yourself with the way you play if you run up and down and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, turnover is going to happen. It doesn't matter. Every team turns it over. But
It's
yeah,
just here, like you mentioned. I think we mentioned it like when we played Gonzaga and Tennessee. Like our turnovers compared to their turnovers, like ours were live ball, theirs were dead ball.
yeah, ours were passing the ball and it get intercepted. Theirs were like they stepped on the line.
Yeah,
Or
so
like
it's how you turn it over, it's where you turn it over, and things like
100%,
that.
100%. And I mean, like, okay, cool. Like we're still the 118th most efficient offense in the country right now. 118. That means 117 teams are more efficient on the offensive end than Syracuse is right now. They're 124th in taking care of the ball. That's been going down every game. Like that was like top 50 a couple of games ago. Now it's 124th.
But
So,
again, it's because of these, like the couple Quadir had, the one Chris Bell had. There was one late in the game when JJ drove to the rim and instead of looking to float it up, he kicked it out and turned it over. Like the little things, like guys are trying. Like I love that you're trying to make that extra pass, but like sometimes you're turning down a good shot to get. I won't even say a great shot, maybe another decent shot. So like take the shot you have because it's a better look than where you're trying to go with the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I don't. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they don't do anything super well offensively. Like literally nothing. They don't do anything really well offensively. They don't shoot. Like they're 241st in the country from three. They're 264th from two. Like they just, yeah, they're 226th in assists per made field goals. So like they're just not. I mean, they're not top 100 on anything in the offense. They're not top one. Okay, they're top outside of taking care of the ball. They aren't even top 200 in anything offensively. So it's like they're just not. It's just not there yet. It's not hitting yet. So,
and I will say one thing. Obviously, somebody tweeted about this, but like one thing that I noticed, or obviously that I've noticed for the past couple of years, but like one thing that really hurts Syracuse that other teams have is we've talked about it is a low post presence.
yeah.
Just like some guy, and I'm not saying a guy that you have to throw into every time he can go score, but just that the threat of throwing the ball into somebody who can make a move to score or dish it off for somebody else. And like, we don't have that. And like, I know a lot of people are like, we had that last year, but like Jesse was it for a little bit, but like he's not a true low post presence. Like we haven't had, I mean, the last one off the top of my head is Rakeem Christmas that we had that you could throw the ball to and he could actually go to work in the paint.
And I mean, you'll watch teams play now also. Like teams have guards and forwards who, when they drive it and get cut off, they like just kind of keep that dribble alive and go right into a post up. Right? Like,
and that's what
can do that.
I mentioned that earlier. I would love to see some of our guards when they have mismatch. Like JJ's got to like. If you look at our two guards, like you got Judah, who's kind of like that skinny, like quick, athletic one, and then you got JJ, who's more like bulkier a little bit, but like they're both what 6'6", 6'5".
Yeah.
So, like I would love to see him take advantage of like go down there and post a dude up and try to. You don't even have to score out of it. Yeah, just go down there and post him up to try to draw another defender or like
attention. Yeah.
Even Justin, like Justin's got a big body. I mean, I know right now Justin's playing the 4, so odds of him posting up a forward is a little hard.
That's his problem, yeah.
And like that's not really Chris Bell's game is post up. But like you got to find ways to have a low post presence, even if like you mentioned, you got to do it with your guards.
They got to find. Excuse me. Oh man. They got. You go ahead.
Are you trying to say they got to find a center in the portal next year?
No.
Because that's where I'm going.
Yes, but they got to find ways to get paint touches and paint baskets outside of put your head down and score and drive.
Yes.
From judo, like or transition, like just anything that allows them to get it inside. Like I've loved personally when they have even gotten the ball to JJ and Judah at the elbow and like been like, okay, go. Like I've liked that.
There's been some plays where like in the LSU game, like when Judah kind of got going and he was really feeling it, where they would like put Judah on the left side of the floor and like kind of clear out. And they're like, here, you have the whole left side to go to work. Now go do something.
Yeah. I would just like, offensively, I just would like to see a little bit of like 2 or 3 things that have intentional design behind them that can like steal some points. You know what I mean? Like steal a bucket or 2 a game that we might not normally get. Steal an easy shot
I
What
think
do
I
you
think
think
my
of
biggest
Look?
thing is, and I've asked you before, and we've talked about it, is like when you need a bucket or you need like or you're in this 2.5, 3.5 minute drought, like
Something to go to.
what is your go-to play that you can run where you can, and I'm not saying like I just want a good look, right? Like
Yeah.
obviously they're college kids, they're probably not going to hit every shot that they shoot. But
No.
like what is your go-to play where you can get a great look and score and not being a Judah or JJ, just put your head down and get to the rim type of thing. Like, what is your play that you can go get? And like, that's the, like, there was one play, two plays I'll mention before we're hitting an hour here. So two plays that really stood out to me in the game. One good and one kind of bad, but the good one, we were on offense and they kind of pressed us and JJ dribbled up the right side of the court, hit Judah on the left side of the court, and then Judah with it like had a nice left-handed pass to Chris Bell in the corner, and he hit three. Like you push the pace. Like if teams want to press you to speed you up, you play into that.
Yeah.
So push the pace, get good looks. You're gonna like have Justin and Chris like kind of sit in the corner and wait for the ball, and you got two guards who can make those passes. And then there was one play defensively. I'm not sure if you remember this. It was in the second half, but they got a mismatch and JJ was on their big. He was kind of in the paint, and he was like trying to front him, but they kept swinging the ball around. And there was one point where their center got it, and Chris Bell was on him, and he like threw it down. And JJ went for the steal, missed, got the fall, and he kind of laid it up for an and one.
Yeah.
But like if you go back and look at that, like Chris Bell is standing there with his hands down, and like I understand like you're not the greatest defensive player by far, but like you're good enough athletically. If you put your hands up when you know your guard has a mismatch in the paint, and don't let the easy like you're letting the guy put it in front of his face and bullet it to him, where as opposed to having to throw it over the top or something like that.
It's the little things, like it's the little details defensively that get them in trouble. And like I think that is like one of my main concerns of going from zone to man is all Adrian Autry has ever coached is zone. So like there are little things that you have to do differently with your man-to-man defense and like little like habits that you have to instill in your players. And they don't have those yet. And I'm also worried about where those going to come from because none of those guys on the staff, except maybe Strong, like they don't really, they're not, that's not who they are. They've never been around it. So little things like that. And now all these guys have played man-to-man in AAU in high school coming through. Like they know
Overseas.
the basics. But again, this is college. It's different, right? It's different. And so that's one of those things where they just you can tell they're not well schooled, and you can tell that they get away with that because against inferior, less athletic, smaller, less physical, imposing competition than when they play teams who are legit, and that ends up getting them in trouble because those are dunks. Those are wide open threes. Those
and
are
like, obviously like you've seen little adjustments every game where like there's something that usually they give up where they kind of like adjust that in film and things like that. But like you said, like going from a premier 2-3 zone team to a team that plays man now, like there's it's like just little differences like help defense. Like you can't really come all the way down on help defense because you're gonna let the kick out and like you got to know when to go and when not. Like everything's so quick. So like obviously they're still learning and it's gonna take a while to get these players adjusted to it. But like you do see adjustments every now and then, trying to take certain things away. And like obviously like it's tough. Like I hate to say it, but like you go out and get like a Naheem who's 7'4", right? And like normally you look at that and you're like, that's great. Have a 7'4" guy in the middle of the 2-3 zone who can kind of clean up the defense and things like that. But now that you're going to man, like last night, he only played 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
and now you see why he didn't play at Florida State.
Yeah, and like now you see like when you have to guard a guy who can take you to step out, like it's not him.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap up for you guys. Syracuse takes on Georgetown. Georgetown right now is 177 in Ken Palm. They, like I said, they've had some rough losses. They lost to Holy Cross by 1. They lost to Rutgers, who is 63 by 11. They have some wins over some scrub teams. Some of those games have been pretty close. They just lost one to TCU by 1 at the buzzer, and they got shafted.
That was crazy.
They got shafted. They should have won that game. TCU's number 32. So they're capable. They have guys who can play. They scored 84 on TCU. They're scoring points, 94, 83. They're scoring, but they're probably struggling on defense. They're the 310th defense in the country right now.
So they're worse than Cornell.
310 defensively.
Cornell.
They do have a week off between that TCU loss before the Syracuse game, so they've been focusing on the orange probably for the last couple of days.
And it is a rivalry game, so obviously it'll be.
And it's at 11:30 in the morning. So, so anyway, all right, that's it from us, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, do all the things that you want to do to help spread the word. And we hope you got something from this hour-long podcast today. It was hard not to talk long after games because there's so much to talk about. But we'll give you guys a Georgetown preview probably Friday night or early Saturday morning. On behalf of Nick Peckham, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will see you guys soon. Adios.